It's time for this week's episode of Brandon Sports Talk, featuring in-depth interviews from those who are trending in the world of athletics. And now, here's the host of Brandon Sports Talk, Brandon Pate.
Welcome back to Brandon Sports Talk. In today's episode, I have the privilege to interview the Navy's head women's lacrosse coach, Coach Cindy Timchal. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. It's great to be on this program this morning.
Thank you. Can you talk about how you knew that you wanted to become a coach in collegiate women's lacrosse?
I think anybody who is a coach, it is transformational. You learn how to, I shouldn't say learn, you just start playing lacrosse, beginning to love the sport, have great coaches in college, and you decide, this would be a wonderful opportunity. My goal was to teach and also to coach like in high school. But I came in an era that there was many wonderful opportunities to just start to grow. So the next segment for me was to become a college coach and also be a head coach. So I've been very fortunate with my journey. And it all started with really loving lacrosse.
What was that like getting to go to Westchester and getting to put on that uniform and playing collegiate lacrosse?
Yeah, it was very exciting for me, and you just don't in a moment with everything that whether I've been a part of, you don't really think of it as a milestone or something that when you look back, it's going to be this exciting journey, and that you're like, wow, did I really do that? When you get into college, you're just trying to, in some ways, kind of survive. You want to do well in school. You want to have good friends. You want to hang out with, students that have and athletes that have your same kind of goals and desires to be really good in lacrosse. I never dreamed that I would ultimately I was never the star of the team. However, I developed to have the right stuff to be on the team.
Of course, coming out of college, what was that like getting to coach both the field hockey and lacrosse for Pennsylvania as the assistant coach?
Yeah, the University of Pennsylvania gave me the first opportunity to coach collegiately. And a legendary Ann Sage was both the head coach in both field hockey and lacrosse. So it was very common in my era to coach a fall sport and then a spring, and of course with lacrosse came like field hockey. It was like hand in hand, like peas and carrots. So with that said, many college coaches started coaching, whether it be the head coach of one sport and assistant in the other. But this was a wonderful opportunity. I grew up in Havertown, Pennsylvania, went to Westchester University. Coaching at Penn allowed me to stay at home and kind of learn through a really brilliant coach. We were good. I mean, I know University of Penn has really made a statement recently with really good lacrosse. They won the Ivies this year and advanced in the NCAAs, but we never really heard of UPenn back in those days. But we were like third in the country, so we were quite good. So I got exposure right away to be a part of a program, the University of Penn, in which we were really good.
Of course, getting started in your coaching career, what was that like getting to stay close to home? Going home to play collegiately and still get to coach collegiately.
Yeah, I mean that allowed. I mean, for I know a lot of players that ultimately get into coaching. There is a sense that if you grew up in your area and you made a name for yourself and all your best friends. We always talk about the friends we connect with on a team that is a bond for life. That you really, it was a fortunate for me. And of course, I obviously took the leap of faith by going to Northwestern. It was the idea that to be close to home. I mean, it was a commuting from Westchester to Penn, but I enjoyed every moment of it. And that, Philly connection, the Pennsylvania connection, and to really coach under a great coach and a really solid program just was, I mean, I was just very, very, I feel very fortunate.
How was that feeling like going to Northwestern to become the head coach for the first time in your coaching career?
I kind of chuckle because it truly was a leap of faith. one of my very good friends, who's a legendary coach at the University of Connecticut in field hockey. She was hired as a head field hockey coach at Northwestern University. She had been coaching at F&M and being quite successful at that level. And they decided to elevate, and well, I shouldn't say elevate, literally start a women's lacrosse program. And it was, what should I say? It was transformational, to have this, Midwest school, Big Ten program, the only private school in the Big Ten. It's not very big. It's like 6,500 undergraduate students instead of like 65,000 at Ohio State. But it's really made a name for themselves, particularly in women's in sports. And in my case, I was hired by Northwestern to become the assistant field hockey and then head lacrosse coach.
What was that feeling like, becoming the first head coach in Northwestern to start up that program?
Yeah, I mean, when think about it now, I think when you're young, you're focusing on leaving the area that you were most comfortable with, Pennsylvania area, Maryland, East Coast, and going out to the Midwest. Chicago is a wonderful city. And of course, as you know, Northwestern is an amazing school, incredible students, student athletes, academic programs, athletic programs. And so it was exciting for me to be given that chance, that opportunity. I think to kind of add to that is there were only scholarships in field hockey. So the only way that we really could kind of start this lacrosse program without lacrosse scholarships was in some ways finding the best field hockey players that also happened to play lacrosse. And we were able to do that. And so we didn't have the benefit they have now of separate, you could, as you know, Northwestern's, incredible journey in lacrosse. And in 2021, they won the women's, field hockey national title. And it's very special for me because I was a part of that field hockey program too. So to become that head coach, Brandon, was just an incredible experience for me, particularly in an area that really didn't know a whole lot about girls or women's lacrosse. So it was exciting and challenging.
Of course, what was that feeling like for you to start up that program at Northwestern and being the first coach ever there?
Yeah, I mean, the feeling is, now it was, we brought amazing young women athletes that played, lacrosse, both field hockey and lacrosse, or just lacrosse, to an amazing university. So the feeling for me was one of pride, knowing the integrity of the institution at the university. It was strong academics, and they were figuring their way out on the athletic field, and slowly but surely making, rededicating, facilities to enhance the experience of, the students, and in this case, field hockey and lacrosse players that, find that journey and that commitment to come to Northwestern.
While being the head coach for the women's lacrosse at Northwestern, what were some of the things that you were able to accomplish?
Well, we were able to accomplish things very early. Within the second year, we were in the NCAAs. And I believe even without the scholarships, I think the one thing we were able to do is make a name for ourselves by committing. A lot of our games were played on the East Coast. So if we were going to play Maryland, if we were going to play Virginia, William and Mary, Old Dominion, Penn State, we were going to have to travel. Like, hey, you want to play us? You need to come to us. So we really made creative ways to get our team to the East Coast as much as we could. We didn't have quite as extensive playing seasons that we have now. However, that was just the impetus to really establish ourselves as a legitimate Division I women's lacrosse program in a Big Ten school. And at the time, we were the only Big Ten school with women's lacrosse. Ultimately, Penn State came into the Big Ten. Even Ohio State did not have lacrosse at the time, has added lacrosse, as you know, and now Michigan, of course. So, but prior to that, we were the only Big Ten school. And so to make a name for ourselves, I feel like that was the big thing, is establish a culture that could compete. And it helped because many of our players were at the time from the East Coast. So we were able to travel to the East, and that helped us a lot.
What was that experience like going from Northwestern, where you coached, to then coming to Maryland to become the head coach there?
Yeah, it was just incredible. Maryland was a pioneer in women's sports, and in particular, women's basketball, women's field hockey, and women's lacrosse. To have that opportunity to carry that legacy and begin to start a new tradition at Maryland was just, again, a dream come true for me, to be back on the East Coast, to go to a program that had really started early on with offering women's scholarships in lacrosse, to value the program. And that has a lot to do with success, that the athletics, the program at the University of Maryland said, lacrosse matters. And to have that opportunity to become the next new, women's lacrosse coach at the University of Maryland, prior to my, journey to accept that position, Sue Tyler was before me, and really the predominant coach. There was one other coach that coached maybe the first year and a transitional year, but really to get back to the East, although I love Northwestern, and then to go to a program at that point had women's lacrosse scholarships was exciting for me as a coach at that time in my career.
While at Maryland, what was that experience like, getting to build that championship culture and going to the NCAA championships?
My very first year, we get to the national championship final, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting. My head coach, I had one assistant coach at the time. I wasn't even able to hire one of my own coaches. And the players were great. We just had an incredible season. And, we get to the national championship final, which we, lost to Virginia. It was a great match, but it was the beginning of knowing that we were going to be in a situation, no guarantees for national championships, but an opportunity to excel at the highest level and see where the rest of it falls. So not happy that we lost the first year I was there in a national championship final. However, I just arrived in February. However, it did begin an opportunity to grow from that loss. And in the second year that I was there, we won the national championship.
While at Maryland, what was that experience like, going to 3 consecutive NCAA championships?
Well, it was exciting. I think you're referring to the idea that we had 3 undefeated seasons, or 3, being undefeated. It's a little bit scary because, as you know, I think it was in 2020, I guess it was 2021 when Carolina has done really well, but in 2021, they were undefeated going into the national championship semifinals and lost. And then the final year, and then the next year, they were undefeated and they ended up winning it all. And so there's a sense that sometimes you think, gosh, I wish we lost the game so that we're, whatever. But, for us, we just said, okay, we won every game in the regular season. Let's take one game at a time. So, what we're talking about now at the time didn't seem like something that could happen. And then once we did it, we like, okay, we didn't think much of it. We just wanted to really have the team focusing on every day getting better, every day showing up to compete, and really demonstrating what we did in practices and wanting to show the other teams. So we really focused basically on ourselves. And it just happened that we went undefeated in those years.
Of course, what were some of your biggest accomplishments as the head coach at Maryland?
Probably winning the consecutive national championships. We won 7 in a row, and under my tenure, we won 8. However, if you really want to look at the big picture of a Division I coach coaching young women to aspire to be the best they can be, and to work together and to love the game and, kind of compete with their hair on fire. You really want to look at after they graduate and, becoming amazing, citizens and having families, and for many continuing to coach, whether it is at a high school level, a Division III level, or at the Division I level. So I just felt that probably my biggest accomplishment is just really being proud of the young women I had the opportunity to coach, coach, to be grateful that they said yes to Maryland when I was coaching, to compete at Maryland, and then to see them thrive and excel now as whether they're coaches or in other endeavors of their careers. So I think that's the best part of being a coach. And for me, the most exciting thing about coaching at Maryland.
Of course, for you, what was that transition like from going from Maryland to going to Navy and getting in the service academy schools, Coach?
Yeah, I mean, the excitement really started with our athletic director, Chet Gladchuk. I happened to have recruited his daughter, Julie Gladchuk, at the time when I was at Maryland. When he arrived on campus at the Naval Academy, I mean, he is a real, true, amazing athletic director that had a vision of success, facilities, and really putting the Naval Academy, whether it's football, rowing, soccer, basketball, on the map. And for Chet to decide we're going to add women's lacrosse, and for me to have the honor and the privilege to be the first coach was really meant to be. I had done many things and many amazing things at the University of Maryland. And then to come to the Naval Academy and to compete at Navy Marine Corps Stadium and to really experience what it's like to recruit young women to the academy, to see them grow and develop as amazing leaders and ultimately leaders of serving the Navy, but also see them excel on the lacrosse field. It really doesn't get much better than that.
Of course, as the head coach, what is it like, obviously, seeing those service academy athletes versus when you were at Maryland, seeing those athletes perform?
The Service Academy athletes are just as good as Maryland athletes. And maybe Maryland gets a couple more, than meaning more. Maybe they happen to recruit with their scholarship money some athletes that are, really taking lacrosse, 724 and taking it to the ultimate limit. However, Naval, you can't get much better than a Navy. We want to talk about service academies. I want to talk about, Naval Academy student athletes, and in my case, women's lacrosse players really stand out as just being amazing young women that want to do well in the classroom, to want to do well on the service side and military side of the academy, and really want to crush it on the field. They really do.
What was that feeling like for you to get to step on to the Navy's lacrosse field for the first time?
Well, I mean, the first practice was fun and amazing. I had to transition from a club program into a recruited athlete Division I program. Just amazing experience with some incredible young women that came to the academy, had a chance to play club and excelled at club, and then all of a sudden realized, oh my goodness, they're going to make this a Division I program. So with a mixture of some of the club players and the opportunity to recruit and bringing some fresh new players, we were, kind of a mesh of players that, are now pioneers for the school that put us on the map. And for me personally, the first practice to that first time stepping out on Navy Marine Corps Stadium is something that I will never forget.
Of course, in 2017, what was that feeling like, getting to take Navy to their first ever Final Four in NCAA?
Yes, exciting. We want to do more. We want to go to more Final Fours. The players were just really focused, locked in, and just decided that they could step out on the field and pretty much beat anyone in the country. And once they had that inside of them and could take it onto the field and bring it out, is when the sky was the limit. I mean, it really was an opportunity for us to win a national title. I mean, we lost a heartbreaker by 1 goal against Boston College, who went on to lose to Maryland. But it was an exciting, igniting, and very, very defining, special moment for Navy women's lacrosse. And what also made it so special is that we journeyed up to Boston and we're hosted by Gillette Stadium and Bill Belichick, who literally went to school right down the road from where I live at Annapolis High School and just loves lacrosse. So to have that kind of connection and journey for the Navy women's lacrosse program is really a testament to, again, the idea that if you believe in yourself, if you allow your athletes to excel and get better every day, that going to a Final Four is something that can happen, for anybody, in particular for Navy women's lacrosse.
Of course, what has that been like, obviously getting to compete for 7 NCAA tournament appearances?
Yeah, the best part is winning your conference, and then sitting together as a team on a Sunday night and listening to your team being read off by the monitor on the streaming shows. It's varied from different years. What you do as a coach, you really want, since I've won a national title and won conference championships, you really want it for the players, to see their hard work, their love for the sport, and kind of the getting after it mentality, kind of pay off. And with that, to see the expressions on their face when they're able to either win a conference or get into the NCAAs is really what coaching's all about. And it's something that they will never forget in their lifetime of being that team that won a conference. You don't now for us, you don't always have to win a conference championship, to win a national championship or get into the NCAAs. But to do any of that is very special, particularly here at the Naval Academy and for Navy women's lacrosse.
What does a typical game day look like?
Well, for as coaches and players, we the game day really started maybe that week, but maybe started when our first preseason practice started. But you really want the players to feel confident, relaxed, and really have this great, what I would say, kind of growth mindset, a mindset that is excited to play, confident to step out on the field, and ready for any opponent that we face, at home or whether it is on the road. So it's a multifaceted thing, but for game day, it's just a real special moment for players to, reflect, rehearse, be prepared with the videos we've seen, the scouting reports, the individual defenses or offenses that we prepared them for that particular game. But at the end of the day, it's really a preparation of putting on your Navy uniform, getting out to the stadium and stepping out on the field and be ready when the whistle blows.
Who are some of the teams in your conference that you compete against each week?
Well, in our conference, we have some very notable teams. Obviously, our rival with Army is, classic in all of our sports, and in particular now with women's lacrosse. Loyola has won. I don't believe Loyola has lost a regular season game. We have beaten them in the conference championships. So Loyola happens to be right down the road from us. So a really amazing Division I women's lacrosse program that is in our conference, and a team that we always aspire to be as good as. Boston University brings that Boston flair, traveling up to Boston for us here at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland is always very special. There's Lehigh in University right outside of Philadelphia. Again, a very special place for me. So yeah, we are highlighted by many special programs in our conference that we play throughout our conference season in the spring.
What is that home game atmosphere like when teams like Boston comes to home versus going to, let's say, Lehigh away?
Oh, well, anytime we're playing at home makes it a very special day. And, Boston University will bring down many of their fans, particularly some of them that happen to have played here in Maryland. And for us to have that, excitement of playing again in Navy Marine Corps Stadium, and to have, the love and support of our friends and families and other midshipmen that come to our game, playing at home against Boston University or any team, whether it's in the Patriot League or whether it's a standout, whether we're playing Duke at home or Virginia at home, it really stands as a testament to what lacrosse and Navy women's lacrosse is all about. A lot of excitement in Annapolis. If we're on the road at Lehigh, we get a lot of fans that come up in that area. We have a lot of players that are from the Philadelphia area too. So home or away, it's always going to be an exciting day of lacrosse at the Naval Academy.
What is that atmosphere like when you play teams in the service academy like Army and Air Force?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, we don't play Air Force. They don't have a women's Division I program. However, playing Army is, again, it's a big game, and exciting, challenging, and it's something that all of the players look forward to on both sides of the field. At the end of the day, we're serving one common goal, which is to get an amazing degree and serve our country. So it's intense competition, but when the game ends, we all know why we are at a service academy, and that's what makes coaching here very special, particularly as you mentioned the Navy Army game.
Can you talk about, of course, the culture that you've built for the Navy women's lacrosse program?
Yes, it's we've mentioned it several times. But the culture is one in which it's one of unselfishness, like playing for each other. It's one in which all classes, whether you are I'll want to call it a freshman, we call it a plebe, or a senior, which is called a first class. They all come together to serve each other. So there's no really classes when you compete on the field. We're all one, team. And so I believe our culture is having fun, playing together, and ensuring that when we're competing, that they know what Navy women's lacrosse is all about. It's one of nurturing each other's spirits, competing together, fighting for each other, really at the end, really loving each other. And that's what sport and playing at the United States Naval Academy and women's lacrosse is all about.
As a head coach, what is it like seeing those freshmen put on their first uniform versus the seniors putting that Navy on for the last time?
Oh my gosh. These are amazing questions. They all have just a very defining and special moment for seniors that put that, whether it's your senior game during the regular season or you advance in postseason play and you come up short and realize that was your last game with your uniform on. It's always great memories, special moments. For a freshman, it's just wide-eyed, being ready to play. I have my uniform on. Whether you get to get on the field or not, it's special. And it's a great question to be the first time you put on the uniform and perhaps that last time you put on the uniform. It just makes sport transcends into something that is far greater than just, beating someone, but competing together.
Of course, as a head coach, what is it like seeing those seniors put on that last lacrosse uniform and their first military uniform?
Oh my gosh, yes. Well, again, soon after our season is in the spring and soon after we compete, the seniors are ready in a week or two. If we advance to the Final Four, they actually miss graduation. But once we play and our season's over and they are seniors, there's really no time to really reflect because in a week or two, they're standing and getting their diploma, as an officer in the Navy and going on to amazing things to serve. So it is an exciting time for them as well as myself as the head coach and all of my coaches and staff for Navy Women's Lacrosse. It is very, very special. It's hard to really put into words that transformational experience for our players.
What do you look at in those prospective student athletes looking to go to a service academy school like Navy?
Well, they have to be good students, well focused, and in my opinion, really, really love lacrosse too. You can excel in lacrosse and still crush it in the classroom. And we're really looking for those highly motivated young women that do well in school, are looking for an amazing degree, and at the same time, do well in lacrosse, offer something that really for them stands out and helps us be as successful as we can be on the field. Whether it is tough defense, speed in the midfield, the ability to score and to finish, to win draws, to make saves in the goal cage. We're looking for a well-rounded, amazing student athlete, young women that play the game and aspire something far greater and very special than your normal college experience. In fact, it is it's a better college experience because we're one of the top leadership schools in the country. So to come to a school, get an amazing, bachelor's of science degree, and then be able to lead people is really what, college and what higher education is all about.
What does that official visit look like for those prospective service academies that look to go to Navy?
For a visit, they can, students are invited to come unofficially or officially, and it's really an opportunity to get a better sense of our school, to meet other student athletes, to go to a practice, to meet some professors, go to a class, to talk to the coaches, to walk around campus, to really get to know each other. And our college visits are very similar to any college in the country, where you are, seeing the level of interest, making sure it's a good match for our lacrosse program, and at the same time giving our young women an opportunity to see how great the academy is, how amazing the teachers are, how wonderful our lacrosse players are, and then for them to decide, then they can see what we are all about. So that unofficial official visit is really discovering that this is the place I would really like to be at, and so that's what we're looking for. We invite students to come in and see if it's a great match for them.
What are some of your future plans for the Navy's lacrosse program moving forward?
To continue our level of success, to be as competitive as possible, to bring in bright young future women for the Navy. Yeah, I mean, we have so many things that we want to do to continue to feature, lacrosse games in our Navy Marine Corps Stadium, some standout games to define ourselves of who we are, a team that pulls together when the going gets tough and to compete like crazy. We just want to continue that journey for the young women to make it a insightful, special journey while they're here getting their degree here at the United States Naval Academy.
What advice would you give those freshmen entering their first year of collegiate lacrosse?
To kind of relax. I know it's always nerve-wracking, and you can understand the transition for young women that have been in high school, whether they're attending the University of Maryland or the Naval Academy. There's a little bit of being homesick and figuring themselves out. And so I think it's important for them to relax, have fun, and to play with confidence. A lot of times young players step out on the field and say, well, I'll wait till it's my turn. And I think young players now, and we've witnessed the World Cup in soccer, you could be 18 years old, and scoring goals at the highest level of soccer, for the U.S. team. My advice to young women that are on campus for the first time is to get out there, play with confidence, show what you've done all these years playing lacrosse, and I think that's the best route, and not to maybe be shy or timid, but to really bring your efforts forward. I think that will really help them build confidence on, even if I make a mistake, I can certainly keep hustling all over the field. And if they hustle, play with confidence, have fun, and just relax, I think those are several things that they can focus in on.
What advice would you give those senior lacrosse players looking to play professionally with Athletes Unlimited or with service academy schools going into the military afterwards?
Yeah, I mean, there are opportunities. I know that Jenna Collins, before it was Athletes Unlimited, it was the Women's Professional League. She had an opportunity to play in a few games before she went to flight school. That was back in 2018. There's a little blurring of the lines with the pandemic. There should have been other opportunities. One of our freshmen right now, who's a goalie, she had the opportunity to compete in a senior all-star game on Saturday night at Hopkins. So there is an opportunities and some flexibility with the Service Academy and with the Naval Academy, that if you are a student athlete, that given an opportunity and to deconflict it with any kind of real important things at the academy, they'll have a chance. Last year, one of our graduated seniors, Alexis Bell, played in the World Cup that was hosted here at Towson and played for Team Jamaica. So she was able to get that opportunity to play for Team Jamaica as a Naval Academy grad. So there is opportunities, whether it's playing at the national level and competing for your country. If we fight for our country, it'd be nice to compete for your country at the World Cup or other international events. It's also, there is opportunities, depending on the time, that athletes can compete at the pro level if they can work it around, the Navy's schedule. I mean, we have Noah Sung, who's on the roster as a baseball player for the Philadelphia Phillies. So those are some examples of, working around, the Navy's commitment and deployments and some flexibility that they can also play in the sport that they excelled at in college.
What advice would you give those people that are looking to go from being players of lacrosse to getting into coaching?
The advice is that many of the young college players right now who are, in college, getting ready to go back to school in late August or September, many of them, end up coaching at different camps, whether it's their host institutional camp or other camps, showcase camps all over the country. So they start out by, whether they're hosting a clinic like here at the Naval Academy or going somewhere to coach. I think players that ultimately end up wanting to coach in college, they coach at camps, coach at clinics. And then when they're out of school, it's an opportunity to maybe, we've had a volunteer coach. Now we have another additional assistant. So some of these young players may have the opportunity to become like that third assistant right out of college. Now they might seem to be young, but many of them have stayed the extra year, kind of that COVID year, or gone to grad school and gained a year back. So many of them come in at, 23, 24 years old and join in a lacrosse program, a collegiate program. And if they're good and they've proven that they can really teach the game and have that level of enthusiasm, excitement, they'll find a way into the college game. And there's, the sport's growing every year for women, and adding additional coaching spots is an opportunity for young coaches that want to get into the college game and coach at the collegiate level. And more recently, I've seen that where player played their extra year. Now they were given the opportunity to be like a volunteer somewhere, and now given that opportunity to maybe go to another college and become their third assistant. So the opportunities are there. If you stand out, you love the game, and you're just willing to, get after it, just like they did on the field. I think college coaching is an amazing career opportunity for any young woman that played the game in college.
What advice would you give those head coaches looking to build their own program and build their own legacy as a head lacrosse coach?
Oh man, the advice is, to take one day at a time. I feel that whether you're a young coach as a first year head coach, or even an experienced coach that now has become a head coach for the very first time, is really align yourself with a lot of the coaches, whether it's in your conference, players that you meet at coaches you meet at conferences. You meet other coaches by coaching at different showcases, and then you get to coach with coaches that you compete against or that from different conferences. That's the best way. And then you start asking questions like, hey, this is my first opportunity to be a head coach. Can we sit down sometime and talk about it? Can we Zoom? Can I call you? Can I come by campus? It's a wonderful network of coaches throughout the entire country. We're all here to help each other. And for any coach that would reach out to me as a first year head coach, or anyone else, I believe in my college, community of coaches that I really lean on, gain insight and ask for advice from time to time. These young coaches, or ones that just became a head coach for the very first time, should be there really connecting with the other college coaches. If they have questions, they should just call up, hey, I have a question, coach, or I have a question, Cindy. Can we sit down one time and talk about it, or text, or get on a Zoom, or just get on a call? They'll find it's just a tremendous amount of support, particularly with our College Coaches Association, which is the IWLCA, the Intercollegiate Women's Lacrosse Coaches Association.
That's great advice. Where can my listeners find you at on social media, along with the Navy's Women's Lacrosse program?
Where can you find me?
Mm-hmm.
On social, on Instagram, Navy Women's Lacrosse Instagram. I don't have a huge presence on Instagram as Cindy Timchal, but I find my way on there somehow. So yeah, I mean, this is a generation that really wants to get that information. You know, we want to get information out, whether it's Twitter, Instagram. I think it's a great way for players to connect with other college coaches, other college programs, and in particular, Navy Women's Lacrosse. Believe it or not, there are many young women lacrosse players in high school that have a tremendous amount of following on Instagram. So those are the players that, you know, they can influence other players. I love watching videos of the lacrosse players. You know, most recently there were some highlights of Charlotte North, you know, scoring for Athletes Unlimited. So yes, that would be the best way to connect with myself, Cindy Timchal at Navy Women's Lacrosse, or to connect with my assistant coaches or the program itself.
Thank you again, Coach Cindy Timchal, for your interview, and best luck in your future as the head coach for the Navy Women's Lacrosse program.
Randy, it's been a pleasure. I'm very excited to be on your program, and I thank you for reaching out to Navy Women's Lacrosse. Thank you.
You can find Brandon Sports Talk on Instagram at Brandon Sports Talk, Twitter at Talk_Brandon, and you can find me on YouTube at Brandon Sports Talk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you again, Coach Cindy, for your interview, and best luck in your future.
Thank you.
You've been watching Brandon Sports Talk. Please feel free to like, share, and subscribe to Brandon Sports Talk on social media and on YouTube.